Am I crazy for wanting no contact with my in-laws? I've been dealing with issues with my in-laws pretty much since the moment my husband and I got married. Even thinking back on it now makes my chest feel tight, like I'm bracing myself all over again. We chose to elope. It wasn't impulsive or secretive in a malicious way. We just wanted something small, private, and about us. When my mother-in-law found out, instead of being happy or even neutral, she told us our marriage was based on lies. I remember just sitting there, stunned. Lies? We hadn't lied. We hadn't betrayed anyone. We simply didn't make it about her. That set the tone for everything that came after, even though at the time I tried to brush it off. I told myself she was just emotional, just adjusting, just dramatic. I didn't want to start my marriage by assuming the worst. Then I got pregnant. Instead of excitement, her first reaction was anger. She was upset that we hadn't told her sooner, and even more upset that we didn't do anything special to announce it to her. Not to everyone, just to her. I remember feeling this mix of guilt and confusion, wondering why one of the happiest moments of my life somehow turned into something I was being scolded for. Throughout my pregnancy, things only got worse. She constantly gave unsolicited advice, the kind that wasn't framed as concern, but as instruction. She spoke as if she were an expert, repeatedly saying she understood what I was going through, despite the fact that she had never been pregnant herself. Every time she said that, it felt dismissive, like she was minimizing my actual experience. What disturbed me most, though, was how often she talked about miscarriages. Not gently, not with compassion. She would bring them up casually, almost flippantly, and at times she even mocked women who had miscarried. I remember one conversation where she laughed and implied they must have done something wrong. I was horrified, sitting there, pregnant, vulnerable, already anxious about everything that could go wrong, listening to that kind of cruelty. It made my skin crawl. I felt genuinely disgusted, and it was the first time I remember thinking, I don't feel safe emotionally around this woman. After I gave birth, the situation escalated. She lives about 4,000 miles away and travels constantly, which already made me nervous with a newborn. We made a very clear decision as parents. No visitors until our baby was at least 2 months old. It wasn't personal. It was about health, recovery, and adjusting to being first-time parents. We communicated this boundary clearly. She booked a flight anyway. When we confronted her, she claimed she had received a life-threatening medical diagnosis and needed to see us. My heart dropped. Of course it did. I felt awful even questioning it. But it turned out to be a lie. There was no diagnosis, no emergency, just another attempt to bulldoze through a boundary we had already set. By the time she arrived, I was exhausted, physically, mentally, emotionally. I was still healing, still learning my baby, still trying to find my footing as a mother. From the moment she walked in, she ignored almost every boundary we had. She posted photos of our baby online after we explicitly told her not to. When we asked her to remove them, she refused. She only took them down after my husband went onto her account himself and deleted them. She tried taking our baby into other rooms without asking, as if it were no big deal. She attempted to feed him, even though we'd already said no. She even tried to nap with him without us present. Every time it happened, my stomach twisted. I felt this constant sense of alarm, like I had to stay on guard in my own home. Even my husband, who is usually patient and slow to judge, admitted that her behavior was odd and uncomfortable. I kept telling myself to endure it, that it was temporary, that once she left, things would calm down. But instead of easing up, she escalated again. She accused us of being negligent parents. She told us, flat out, that our baby would die because we wouldn't follow her medical opinions over the advice of our actual doctors. Hearing that felt like being punched in the chest. I remember holding my baby tighter, my mind racing, anger and fear mixing together until I felt numb. This wasn't concern. This was control. And deep down, I knew something had shifted permanently. After that blow-up, we still tried, against our better judgment, to keep things civil. Christmas was coming up, and my husband suggested sending a family photo for a holiday card. I didn't feel great about it, but we agreed under one very clear condition. The photo was to stay within a small private circle. No social media, no mass sharing, just close family. She ignored that too. Not only did she send it out to more than 50 people, but she used a photo of just me, my husband, and our baby as the front of the card. There was no photo of her. No photo of my father-in-law. Just us, like we were props in her version of a happy family. When I found out, I felt that familiar sinking feeling in my stomach, the one that told me I'd been naive to trust her again. That was when everything exploded. She sent a massive group text to us, an extended family, calling us uneducated, stupid, and negligent. Seeing those words in writing about us, about how we parent our child, made my hands shake. When we told her to stop, firmly and clearly, she doubled down. She said that if we weren't going to listen to her, then she didn't want our child around her at all. Then she started calling extended family members, one by one, trying to rally them against us and tell her version of the story before we could even process what was happening. It felt like a smear campaign, like we were suddenly on trial for setting boundaries. Her eventual apology came later, but it wasn't really an apology at all. There was no accountability, no acknowledgement of the lies, the insults, the fear she'd caused, or the boundaries she'd trampled. It was all framed around her intentions and her feelings. Reading it, I felt empty, not angry, just done. Now she's telling people that I'm controlling my husband, that I'm keeping him from her, that I've somehow turned him against his own family. The truth is, neither of us wants contact. This isn't me pulling strings behind the scenes. This is two adults looking at a pattern of behavior and deciding we don't want it in our lives or around our child. We've already decided we're skipping Christmas with them. Even saying that out loud feels heavy, like I'm breaking some unspoken rule about what families are supposed to do. My husband mentioned that they might try to visit this summer, and the thought alone makes my chest tighten. I don't want to see them. I don't want to speak to them. And I absolutely don't want them around my child. At the same time, I don't want to be the reason my husband feels torn. I don't want to take him away from his parents or force him into an impossible choice. But this feels like too much. Too many crossed lines. Too much disrespect. Too much emotional damage to keep pretending it's manageable. So that's where I am now. Exhausted, protective, and questioning myself, even though every instinct I have is screaming the same thing. Am I crazy for wanting no contact? Honestly, after hearing this entire story, I don't think crazy at all. This is about survival, boundaries, and protecting a child. What stood out to me most wasn't just one bad moment, but the pattern. From the very beginning, the MIL showed that she needed to be the center of everything. The marriage, the pregnancy, the baby. When she wasn't, she lashed out, calling a marriage based on lies, lying about a life-threatening illness just to force a visit, ignoring clear rules about a newborn. These aren't misunderstandings. These are deliberate choices. And the scariest part? The emotional manipulation. Telling new parents their baby will die unless they listen to her, that's not concern. That's fear-based control. Any parent hearing that would be shaken to their core. I also want to point out something important. The husband isn't being controlled. He's observing the same behavior, feeling the same discomfort, and reaching the same conclusion. Going no contact isn't about punishment. It's about safety, peace, and mental health, especially when a child is involved. Skipping Christmas, avoiding summer visits, creating distance. These are not extreme reactions. They're responses to repeated boundary violations, public humiliation, and zero accountability. Sometimes family doesn't mean access, and being a grandparent doesn't override being respectful. Wanting no contact here doesn't make her heartless. It makes her a parent who's finally listening to her instinct. Audience opinion, let's discuss now. I want to hear from you. 1. Do you think going no contact is justified here? Or should they try one last chance with strict boundaries? 2. At what point do repeated boundary violations become emotional abuse? 3. Do you believe the "you're controlling my son" accusation is a common tactic in situations like this? 4. If you were the husband, how would you handle your parents in this situation? 5. Should grandparents who refuse to respect rules still get access to grandchildren? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm really curious where you stand on this one.